What if a child in duct-taped boots held the key to a miracle? This is a story that will leave you speechless. On Real Life Story, we bring you tales that inspire and amaze. Let's dive in. What would you do if a 9-year-old kid in duct-taped boots claimed he could heal your child? And he was right. It was cold that morning in Birmingham, Alabama. Not cold enough to snow, but the kind that made your breath show and your fingertips sting. People rushed in and out of the Children's Medical Center on 7th Avenue, bundled in scarves, clutching coffee cups, moving fast like they could outrun whatever brought them there. But one person wasn't moving. He sat on a flattened cardboard box near the revolving doors, drawing quietly in a weather-beaten notebook. His name was Zeke Carter, just 9 years old. His coat was a size too big, sleeves rolled up, and one of his boots had duct tape across the toe. A red knit beanie rested low on his forehead, barely covering his ears. He didn't beg, didn't ask for help, just sat there watching people come and go. Hooked too, but what if this boy wasn't just watching? What if he saw something no one else did? Stay with Real Life Story to find out how one moment changed everything. He was there most Saturdays. Some hospital staff had tried to shoo him off when he first started showing up, but after a while, they gave up. Zeke didn't cause trouble. He smiled when spoken to, and when he wasn't sketching in his notebook, he was watching. Always watching. Most folks figured he had a parent inside. Maybe a sick sibling. Maybe he was just waiting for a ride. Nobody asked too many questions. Not in a place like that. Across the street, parked by a fire hydrant, a dark silver Range Rover idled. The engine stayed on, but the driver didn't move. Inside sat Jonathan Reeves, a man in his late 40s with a sharp jawline and graying temples. His tie was loose, his collar wrinkled. He had money. You could see it in the way his car gleamed, even under the hospital's fluorescent lights. But he looked like a man running out of gas. In the back seat, a booster chair held his daughter, Isa, 6 years old, brown curls tucked behind one ear, legs tucked under a pink blanket. Her eyes were wide open, but she didn't say a word. The accident had changed everything. 1 minute, she was climbing trees and racing her cousins in the backyard. The next, she was paralyzed from the waist down, sitting in silence. Jonathan opened the back door, scooped her up carefully, and carried her toward the entrance. He didn't notice Zeke at first. Most people didn't, but Zeke noticed him. He saw the way Jonathan held her like she might fall apart. The way her eyes stayed fixed on the sky, avoiding the building. Zeke stared longer than usual. Then, just before they passed, he stood up and called out, "Sir, I can make your daughter walk again." Jonathan stopped mid-step. Not because he was offended or confused, but because of how the words were said. Not like a sales pitch, not like a joke, just soft, clear, and serious, like Zeke believed it completely. Jonathan turned, eyes narrowed. "What did you just say?" Zeke didn't flinch. He stepped forward, tucking his notebook under his arm. "I said, I can help her walk again." Jonathan stared at him, his arms tightened around Isa. "That's not funny, kid." "I wasn't joking," Zeke's voice didn't shake. There was no smile, just that same quiet tone, a grown-up kind of stillness in a kid's body. Jonathan looked down at Zeke's clothes, his taped-up boot, the cracked lenses of the glasses hanging from the boy's shirt collar. This had to be some weird coincidence, maybe even a scam. He turned and walked inside without another word. But inside, he couldn't stop thinking about it. The way the kid said it, not with hope, not with doubt, but like it was a fact. Something about that voice stayed stuck in Jonathan's head, and it was going to keep pulling at him until he came back. On Real Life Story, we uncover moments that defy expectation. Jonathan tried to forget about the kid. For the next few hours, he sat through ISA's appointments, nodding through updates from therapists, neurologists, and specialists. All of them using the same phrases they always did: managing expectations, long road ahead, miracles take time. He'd heard it all, but Zeke's words kept repeating in his mind like a stubborn itch. "I can make your daughter walk again." By early afternoon, Jonathan and Isa stepped out of the building. The sun had broken through the clouds, but the cold was still sharp. He walked toward the car, cradling ISA as usual, when he noticed Zeke again, still there. Same box, same notebook. Except this time, he was looking right at Jonathan like he knew he'd come back. Jonathan hesitated. He glanced at ISA. Her head rested on his shoulder, eyes closed. Her body was light, too light for a kid her age. He turned. You again, he muttered, walking over. Why would you say something like that? You think this is funny? Zeke shook his head slowly. No, sir. You don't even know her. Jonathan snapped, lowering ISA gently into the back seat. You don't know what she's been through. You don't know what we've been through. Zeke didn't back down. I don't have to know her to help. Jonathan straightened up. You're what, 9? Almost 10, exactly. You're a little boy sitting outside a hospital with duct tape on your shoes. What could you possibly know about helping someone like my daughter? Zeke looked down, his fingers tracing the edge of his notebook. My mama used to help people walk again, he said quietly. She was a physical therapist. She taught me stuff. She said the body remembers things, even when it forgets for a while. Jonathan stared at him, the skepticism hardening in his chest. So, what? You watched her do some stretches and now you think you're a doctor? I watched her help a man walk after being in a chair for 5 years, Zeke said, eyes lifting. She didn't have machines or nurses, just her hands, her patience, and faith. Jonathan opened his mouth to speak, then stopped. He glanced around. A nurse passed by, giving Zeke a small wave. A janitor from the hospital nodded in the boy's direction. They all seemed to know him. I'm not giving you money, Jonathan said. I didn't ask for money. Then what do you want? Zeke took a deep breath and stepped forward. Just 1 hour. Let me show you. Jonathan looked back at ISA, who had now opened her eyes and was watching both of them quietly. He sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. I should walk away right now. Zeke didn't move. I should call security, Jonathan added. Still, the boy stayed silent. Jonathan finally huffed. Fine. You want to waste your time, kid? Meet us at Harrington Park tomorrow, noon. Don't be late. Zeke nodded once. I'll be there. Jonathan climbed into the SUV, started the engine, and pulled off without looking back. But in the rearview mirror, Zeke was still standing there, hands at his sides, face unreadable. Back at home after dinner, Jonathan sat in his home office. Papers were spread across his desk. None of them made sense. He kept thinking about the way Zeke stood there like he knew something. ISA poked her head into the room. Daddy, she asked. He turned. Yeah, baby. Who was that boy? Jonathan paused. Just somebody we met outside the hospital. He looked like he believed it, she said. Believed what? That I could walk. He stared at her, lips parting slightly. She smiled just barely and walked her fingers across the armrest of her wheelchair like they were legs. But Jonathan wasn't smiling because for the first time in a long time, something inside him didn't feel numb. It felt dangerous, like hope. Harrington Park was the kind of place most people passed by without a second glance. A cracked basketball court, a few swings with chains that squeaked, and a patch of grass that tried to be a soccer field. On Sundays, it was usually empty, especially around noon. But that day, Zeke was already there, sitting on the bench closest to the big oak tree. He wore the same oversized jacket, but his notebook was tucked away. Instead, he had a small gym bag at his feet and a folded towel on the bench beside him. At 12:07, Jonathan's SUV pulled up. He didn't say anything at first, just got ISA out, set her gently in her wheelchair, and wheeled her over to where Zeke sat. He didn't make eye contact. His arms were crossed tight like he was already regretting being there. Zeke stood up when they arrived. Hi again, he said politely. Jonathan gave a stiff nod. ISA waved shyly. Zeke smiled at her. Hi, ISA. Her eyes lit up a little. Hi. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. How do you know her name? You said it yesterday, Zeke replied. I remember stuff. Jonathan didn't respond. He just gestured at the towel. So, what now? Magic carpet ride? Zeke ignored the jab. No, sir. Just the basics. He opened his bag and pulled out a pair of socks, a tennis ball, a small jar of cocoa butter, and a plastic container filled with what looked like warm rice wrapped in cloth. Jonathan squinted. What is all that stuff? My mom used, Zeke answered. The rice is for heat, helps loosen tight muscles. The ball is for pressure points. Jonathan folded his arms again. Zeke turned to Isa. If it's okay, can I work with your legs for a little while? Nothing hurts. I promise. And if anything feels weird, just say stop. Okay? Isa looked up at her dad. He sighed. You can try. Just be careful. Zeke knelt down beside her chair. He gently unwrapped the blanket from her legs and placed the warm cloth rice pack over her thighs. Isa flinched slightly. Too hot? He asked. She shook her head. It feels good. Zeke nodded and waited.